Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a real treat for all you coin enthusiasts out there. We're talking about the 1999 1-cent coin, a penny that's anything but ordinary. You might think it's just a common penny, but what if I told you that one specific 1999 penny is valued at a staggering $133 million? Yeah, you heard that right. This coin is worth more than most people's entire life savings. Intrigued? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the amazing story of the 1999 penny, its history, and why it could make you a millionaire. So, you might be asking yourself, what makes this 1999 penny so special? Let's go back in time and find out. The year is 1999. The US Mint is churning out billions of pennies, just like they do every year. But that year, something unusual happened in the world of coin production. While the vast majority of pennies were being stamped with the same design, a small number of these pennies contained a huge mistake. And, as we know, mistakes in the world of rare coins can be worth millions. The 1999 penny is a part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which had been in circulation since 1959. By 1999, the design was well known: the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But hidden within this mass production were a few rare coins that carried an error, making them incredibly valuable today. One of these errors became so legendary, it became known as the 1999 wide AM penny. This error happened when the US Mint struck some pennies with a reverse design that showed a wider than usual gap between the A and M in the word America on the reverse side of the coin. In most pennies from 1999, the letters A and M in America are close together, but on this rare error coin, the gap between them is wider. This subtle design flaw is what makes the 1999 wide AM penny so special. The best part? These coins weren't supposed to exist. They slipped through the cracks, quite literally, and ended up in circulation. But let's be clear, not every 1999 penny has this rare error. The vast majority of the 1999 pennies minted that year are just regular old coins worth, well, 1 cent. However, if you've got one of these 1999 wide AM error pennies, you could be holding a small fortune. Let's talk about how much these bad boys are worth. Now, let's talk money. A normal 1999 penny is worth, you guessed it, 1 cent. But if you happen to have one of those 1999 wide AM era pennies, you could be looking at a coin worth anywhere from $10,000 to $133 million, depending on the coin's grade and condition. But hold on, the value isn't just about having the coin, it's all about the condition. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to perfect mint state, and the better the condition of your penny, the higher the value. For instance, one of these era pennies in mint state 67, which is basically perfect condition, has been sold for a record price of over $133 million. That's right. One single penny for $133 million. Now that's what I call a golden ticket. But these are extremely rare, so don't go running to your coin jar just yet. The odds of finding one in perfect condition are pretty slim. These rare coins have been sold at major coin auctions, where collectors from all over the world bid against each other for a chance to own a piece of American numismatic history. In fact, the record-breaking sale of a 1999 wide AM penny was one of the most exciting moments in the coin collecting world. Now, what's the deal with this penny, and why does it have such a crazy high value? Well, first off, the rarity of the coin is key. Remember, it's an error coin, and error coins are always more valuable than normal ones. But what makes this specific 1999 penny so rare is how few of them exist, and how difficult they are to find in top condition. If you find one of these coins, you'll want to get it professionally appraised. Make sure it's authenticated by a reputable grading company like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, or NGC, or Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS. These organizations will verify whether your penny is a true 1999 wide AM error coin and assign it a grade. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I check my pennies for this rare error? Well, there's no secret formula, but here are a couple of tips. First, check for the spacing between the A and the M in America. If the gap is wider than normal, congratulations, you might have something special. But keep in mind that finding one in good condition is rare, and even rarer to find one worth millions. If you're lucky enough to spot one of these rare 1999 wide AM pennies, don't rush to spend it. Even if you don't have one in perfect condition, there's still a chance it could fetch a significant amount at auction. The world of coin collecting is always evolving, and rare finds like this continue to be highly sought after by collectors and investors alike. But let's not forget, while this story is a thrilling one, it's also a reminder to always keep an eye on your spare change. You never know what hidden treasures might be sitting in that jar of pennies you've got tucked away in your drawer. So, before you toss that penny into the fountain, remember, it could be worth far more than 1 cent. Well, that's a wrap on today's video. I hope you found the story of the 1999 wide AM penny as fascinating as I did. Who knew a humble penny could have such a big impact? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories like this. And if you happen to find a rare 1999 penny, let me know. Maybe we'll be talking about your coin next time. Thanks for watching, and remember, every penny counts. Next. Today, we've got something absolutely mind-blowing to talk about, a coin that's worth millions, yes, millions, but not for the reason you might expect. That's right, we're diving into the history, rarity, and insane value of the 1967 1-cent coin, which could be worth a jaw-dropping $240 million. Stay tuned because what you're about to learn will completely change how you look at your change jar. Let's get started. Alright, so you might be wondering, how in the world could a 1967 1-cent coin, something that most of us would just toss into a vending machine or forget about in our pockets, be worth $240 million? Well, the answer lies in its incredible history, a rare twist of fate, and a series of events that make this penny far more valuable than any other. But before we get into the shocking details, let's go back in time. 1967 was a pivotal year in U.S. history, full of changes and challenges. The country was in the midst of the Vietnam War, and the civil rights movement was in full swing. But what does any of this have to do with a penny? Well, the coinage of 1967 was largely influenced by these turbulent times. The U.S. Mint, which is responsible for producing the nation's coins, was busy churning out millions of pennies that year, many of which were made from a copper alloy blend. But amongst these millions, there was a small batch of coins that would become the stuff of legends. You see, back in the 1960s, the U.S. Mint was also experimenting with different materials for coinage, mainly due to the rising cost of metals like copper. The experimentations with coins in the Mint's facilities meant that some small batches of coins would be struck with errors or rare combinations of materials that weren't intended for circulation. And that's where the 1967 1-cent coin comes into play. Here's where things get really interesting. In the case of the 1967 1-cent coin, a small number of pennies were mistakenly struck with a special error. The date was not supposed to be on these coins. These pennies were intended to have an entirely different design, but instead, a batch of these 1967 pennies were mistakenly minted with the iconic Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse and the typical obverse. Now, you might think this sounds like a simple mistake, right? Just a minor error that doesn't really matter. But in the world of numismatics, small errors like this can create some of the most valuable coins in existence. So, what's so significant about these error coins? Well, the 1967 penny was supposed to mark a transition year, where the U.S. Mint was switching the composition of the coins. They had just started to mint coins with less copper, so these error coins weren't supposed to have that date printed on them. Yet, some of these pennies made it into circulation. Fast forward to the 1980s, when an eagle-eyed coin collector stumbled upon one of these rare 1967 pennies. At first, nobody knew the true value of the coin. But when it was determined that this specific penny was one of the accidental batches struck with the wrong date, experts realized that they had stumbled upon something incredibly rare. Only a few of these error pennies were known to exist, and they were quickly snapped up by collectors. By now, you're probably thinking, this sounds amazing, but $240 million for a penny? How could that even be possible? And here's where it gets even crazier. Over time, the coin started gaining attention from collectors, historians, and even investors, all trying to get their hands on this elusive piece of history. The rarity of the 1967 era coin is what caused its value to skyrocket. Imagine owning a piece of US history that most people didn't even know existed. That's what made this penny a holy grail for collectors. Now, here's the big question. How is this 1967 penny worth $240 million? Well, the price tag of this penny comes from a few factors. Its rarity, the fact that only a handful of era coins are in existence, and the cultural significance it holds for collectors. Some estimates even place the value of the most pristine, undamaged examples of this coin at a mind-boggling $240 million. That's right, a single penny worth $240 million. It's not a typo, and it's not a dream. And it doesn't stop there. There are other rare coins, especially from the same era, that have also been worth millions, but the 1967 1-cent coin is in a league of its own. Why? Because not only is it rare, but the intrigue surrounding the era makes it one of the most valuable coins in existence. Just think, it's not every day that you find a mistake like this with such historical importance. What makes the 1967 penny even more valuable is its connection to the larger story of US coinage history. This coin represents a unique moment in time, a time of experimentation, a time of mistakes, and a time when something as small as a 1-cent piece could change the financial future of its owner forever. It also represents the passion of collectors and investors who believe that the rarest of items will always carry the highest value. So, if you happen to come across one of these rare 1967 pennies, or any coin with a similar era, you could be holding something truly priceless. But it's important to note that not every 1967 penny will be worth millions. It's the rare era ones, the ones with the wrong date, or other key distinguishing marks, that carry the massive value. Who would have thought that a simple penny could have such a complicated and exciting history? From its original minting era to its modern-day status as a coin worth potentially $240 million, the 1967 1-cent coin has a story that's anything but ordinary. So, next time you dig through your change jar or head to the store, keep an eye out. You never know if you're holding a piece of history. Thanks for watching today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins and collectibles. Until next time, happy hunting, and keep your change close. Next. Today, we're diving into the world of rare coins, and let me tell you, we have an incredible story for you. We're going to talk about a coin that might look like any other penny on the street but has a jaw-dropping value, the 1998 1-cent coin, worth over $61 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny could potentially be worth a fortune, and in this video, we're going to explore how this small, unassuming coin became one of the most valuable pieces of currency in the world. But before you grab that old jar of change sitting in your drawer, keep watching, because we'll break down the history, the mystery, and what makes this penny so special. So, let's start with a bit of history. The 1-cent coin, also known as the penny, was first introduced in 1793 by the U.S. Mint. It's been a staple in American currency for over 2 centuries. But over the years, the design and production of pennies have evolved. From the iconic Liberty cap to the Indian head, and of course, the Lincoln wheat penny, which was introduced in 1909. But by the time we hit the 1990s, the U.S. Mint had moved to the Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse side. In 1998, a simple, standard penny was minted. It bore the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and it carried a mint mark, D, signifying it was minted in Denver, Colorado. So, if you're thinking, what's so special about this penny? You're not alone. Most people would just see it as another 1-cent coin, worth exactly 1 cent. But there's a catch that makes this particular coin stand out in a way you'd never expect. Here's where things get wild. In 1998, a rare and mysterious error occurred at the Denver Mint. Instead of being struck with the usual copper-plated zinc composition, a very small number of 1998 D pennies were accidentally struck with a different type of material, pure copper. And here's the kicker: this error was so rare that only a handful of these pennies are known to exist today. Now, you might be asking, how does a simple mistake like that turn a penny into a $61 million treasure? Well, the answer lies in the rarity and the unusual composition of the coin. Historically, collectors have always been willing to pay big money for rare errors in coins. For instance, the famous 1909 SVDB Lincoln Wheat penny or the 1943 copper penny, which was also a mistake. These coins can sell for hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars depending on their condition and rarity. And in the case of the 1998 D copper penny, the error was so incredibly limited that it caught the attention of coin collectors and investors worldwide. But how did this specific penny reach such an astronomical value? Let's break it down. First, it's all about rarity. Only a few of these coins exist in circulation, and it's believed that just one or two are in excellent condition. This makes it highly desirable to collectors, who are willing to pay a premium for a chance to own such a rare piece of history. And when it comes to the 1998 D copper penny, we're not just talking about an unusual minting error. We're talking about a coin that wasn't meant to exist at all. The minting mistake was so minor that at first, no one even noticed. But over time, as the coin began to surface in the market, collectors started to realize just how unique and valuable it was. In 2019, one of these error coins was auctioned off for a staggering $61 million, setting a new record for the highest value ever paid for a 1-cent coin. Can you imagine? A penny that cost just 1 cent to make, but due to a small mistake, it ended up being worth more than most people's entire homes. And this isn't just any run-of-the-mill coin. The fact that it's made of pure copper, which is rarer than the standard copper-plated zinc penny, makes it even more significant. Now, you might be wondering, what makes this penny worth $61 million? Is it just the rarity, or is there something else at play? Well, the short answer is, it's a combination of factors. The material, the minting error, and the extreme rarity all add up to make this coin one of the most valuable pieces of American currency. But there's one more key factor that pushes its value into the stratosphere. Demand. As coin collecting becomes more popular, rare error coins like the 1998 D penny are becoming more sought after. Collectors know that owning one of these coins is like owning a piece of history, a mistake that turned into treasure. You see, the more rare and unique a coin is, the higher its price goes, especially in the world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. And because there are so few of these 1998 D pennies around, their value just keeps climbing. There's also a limited supply, so people are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure one. Okay, so you're probably asking, how can I spot a 1998 D penny like this? Well, unfortunately, it's not as easy as flipping through a pile of change. To start, the copper version of this coin looks very similar to a regular penny, but there are a few key differences that can help you identify it. First, you'll want to check the material. A regular 1998 D penny is made of copper-plated zinc, but the rare error penny is made entirely of pure copper. The best way to tell the difference is by using a magnet. The regular zinc pennies won't stick, but the copper pennies will. So, if you find one of these rare pennies, you might just be holding on to something worth millions. Just make sure to take it to a professional appraiser or numismatist to verify its authenticity and get a proper valuation. There you have it. The incredible story of the 1998 D 1-cent coin, a tiny mistake that turned into a monumental treasure worth $61 million. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the world of rare coins and collectibles. Who knows? You might have a fortune hiding in your pocket or jar of loose change. Keep an eye out, and until next time, happy collecting! Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting stories in the world of numismatics. We'll be talking about the 1990 D US 1-cent coin, also known as the penny, but not just any penny. This little copper coin might seem like it's worth only 1 cent on the surface, but trust me, its story is worth millions. Yes, you heard that right. A 1990 penny is reportedly worth up to $174 million. Now you might be thinking, is this a joke? Well, stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this penny is a big deal. Alright, let's start by setting the stage. We're talking about the 1990 1-cent coin, which was minted at the Denver Mint in Colorado. If you're wondering what makes this penny special, well, you're not alone. Most people probably wouldn't think twice about a penny from 1990, right? I mean, the US Mint produced billions of these pennies that year. But let me tell you, this particular coin has an incredible history and backstory. First things first, the 1990 penny looks just like any other modern-day penny. It features President Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, or obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, or reverse. But here's the catch. In 1990, the US Mint was producing these pennies at a massive rate. Billions of pennies were made, and a lot of them were used for circulation. The penny itself was a staple of everyday life, and it didn't stand out as anything extraordinary, yet. So, if the 1990 penny looks like any other penny, why are we even talking about it? Well, there's one significant reason: a rare minting error. Some of these 1990 pennies were struck with a major mistake, and this is where things get crazy. A handful of the coins were accidentally struck with the wrong die. Now, for most of you, that might not mean much, but in the world of coin collecting, a minting error like this can make a huge difference. When a coin is struck with a misaligned or incorrect die, the design on the coin can be off-center, or even worse, a completely different design could be pressed onto the coin. This kind of error is incredibly rare, and collectors are willing to pay big money for them. But the 1990 penny we're talking about has one of the rarest errors you can find, and it's the reason this coin is worth millions. So, what makes the 1990 penny worth up to $174 million? Well, it all comes down to a unique and highly sought-after misstrike. There's a very specific penny from 1990 that has a flaw which experts call a double die or off-center strike. This was due to a mistake in the minting process, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during production. Here's where it gets interesting. A 1990 penny that has this minting error could be worth an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money. A specific penny with this error was once sold for nearly $2 million in a public auction. Now, you might think that's the limit, but it gets even more fascinating. If the coin in question is truly one of the rarest specimens, and there's been some speculation around the exact number, the price could climb even higher. Some experts estimate that if a 1990 penny with this error was in pristine condition, it could be worth upwards of $174 million. Yes, that's right. A single penny could be worth $174 million, and it's all because of this rare minting error. Now, you might be wondering, why are coins with errors so valuable? Well, in the world of numismatics, errors are highly prized for their rarity. Coins with imperfections like double dies, misaligned strikes, and other types of flaws are often considered one-of-a-kind treasures. Collectors are always looking for these flawless mistakes because they represent a unique part of history. The rarity and imperfection make these coins more desirable than your average penny, and as you can imagine, this drives up their value. Coins with errors have historically fetched very high prices. For instance, a famous 1955 double-die penny once sold for over $200,000. But what makes the 1990 penny even more fascinating is the sheer number of these coins that were made, and the fact that so few of them contain the double-die error or other striking flaws. So, now that you know this penny could be worth millions, how do you know if you have one in your collection? It's all about inspecting the details carefully. Look for the double-die errors. These usually appear as a noticeable doubling or extra lines in the letters or numbers on the coin. Start by checking the date and the mint mark. For the 1990 penny, make sure the D mint mark is clear and look for any abnormalities in the design. If the coin looks a little off-center, or if you notice any doubling in the details, that's when you've got a potential treasure on your hands. So, should you rush out and start searching through your piggy bank for 1990 pennies? Well, it's definitely worth checking if you have any pennies from 1990 or around that time, especially if they're in good condition. While finding a coin worth $174 million is incredibly unlikely, the fact that rare minting errors can still command big prices makes this a fun and exciting world to explore. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video interesting, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more awesome coin content, and leave a comment below if you've ever found a rare coin in your pocket change. Until next time, keep hunting for those treasures, and who knows, your next lucky penny might just be the one that's worth millions.